Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new mini tour here in Travolution Tours. This is really going to be quite brief, but I couldn't really extend it any more than what it actually is. So, I'm today introducing you to the area of Peña Cabarga, which is in my home region of Cantabria in the north of Spain. And this is an area that is actually very important for Cantabrian people. In many ways, as you're going to find out, particularly as somebody who grew up by Santander, by the Bay of Santander, which is, by the way, some of the most amazing views that you can see from here, from Peña Cabarga, and one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you guys here. It is one of those items of landscape that I just grew up with. You know, everybody knew about Peña Cabarga. You kind of cannot escape it. And for those of you who have done tours from Santander, this is essentially the area that you see from the Bay of Santander onwards. And it's actually of quite importance, both from a historical, cultural, and geological and geographical significance. So let me tell you a bit more about Peña Cabarga itself. So on top of the beautiful views here in Peña Cabarga, I need to bring your attention to this, as we call it, the pirulí, which kind of means the pointy thing in Spanish, in local dialect, which may not seem like a lot, but it's actually very important for my people. This is actually a very important monument dedicated to, it's actually called Monumento al Indiano y a la Marina de Castilla, which is normally summarized as the Monumento del Indiano, which is the monument to the Indianos and the Navy of Castile. Now, the Indianos are essentially the people of Spain, and in this case Cantabria, who left and emigrated to the American continent and sometime later came back completely loaded with money. And I'm talking loaded with money, to the point that actually many of them even managed to become nobles. You know, they bought titles and whatnot. More than one or two, particularly from the area of Cantabria, at the expense of slavery. So, you know, one of those dark histories. Now, the monument has actually been here since 1968, and it's of great remark because, well, the Indianos actually brought a lot of wealth back into the region. Cantabria is a traditional, well, what you're seeing, a lot of landscapes for farming or the sea, so, you know, we have some, I guess, economical difficulties sometimes. But like I said, this is not just Monumento al Indiano, that is what it's normally recalled as, but it's also the monument to the Marina de Castilla, to the Castilian Navy, which ironically was never really the Castilian Navy. The ranks that founded the Castilian Navy always came from the north of Spain, particularly from the areas of Cantabria, Galicia, Asturias, and País Vasco. Of course, back in the day, we were all part of the Kingdom of Castile. Nowadays, well, as you know, we are different autonomous communities within Spain itself. Now, this is actually a big thing because some of the most important navies and most important admirals that came from the Castilian Navy, particularly during the Middle Ages, were Cantbrian. And the docks in Santander and some of the other areas of water that you've seen on the other side, we are now looking, by the way, towards the interior valleys of Cantabria and the area of Picos de Europa. I'll show you in just a moment in one of the plaques the area that we are actually reflecting upon. But in the views that we've seen previously, that's where the majority of the ships would have been built. In fact, the Castilian Navy, as we call it, has actually been active since the 8th century. And fully developed slowly as the sort of high and later Middle Ages go. By the way, in this kind of area, you're gonna notice that there is a lot of movement of the gimbal and of the lens. Although a beautiful day, the wind up here is really, really bad. You know, we're talking of about 540 something meters, 569 meters, if I remember correctly, is the height in Pico Gen. So the wind is quite fierce. And well, in any case, as I was saying, the Castilian Navy of the Middle Ages was particularly important for Cantabria because of Admiral Bonifaz. Bonifaz is going to be the man who, leading 13 naos and 5 galleys built in Santander, will finally reach the area of Seville and help to the process of the Reconquista for all of those territories in the south of the country that were still under Muslim command. So, as you can see, this is a very, very important thing for us in many ways. So, it's not just the Indianos, it's the Castilian Navy that matters in here. And that is because, well, like I said, when you go into the Bay of Santander, it's almost impossible to miss the area of Peña Cabarga, and particularly the Pirulí, like we call it, which is this little, monument and peak, which, by the way, is often better known in the people of the local area because it is the local retransmission tower for TV and radio. So one way or another, when you come into the port of Santander, you see this. And that is why it has such an important historical and cultural connotation. But as I carry on with the history of Peña Cabarga and we start going into the second half of the video, let me give you some very brief details of what you're seeing here. So like I said, although we're in the highest point, Pico Yen, which is the top height of the mountain, is 569 meters above the sea level, and the whole reserve of Peña Cabarga is actually about 2,588 hectares in what we call the district of Peñacudero. And well, I should say, by the way, we're now starting the second part of this tour, which is something I've never really done before. So my apologies for my absolute lack of dexterity. We're actually going on a car tour because it's very important for you guys to understand the context of Peña Cabarga and what it means to the people of Cantabria to actually go up and down this hill. And there was no way I could do this, with my tiny legs in just one morning. So my dad very kindly gave us a ride. So as we're going now descending from the top of Peña Cabarga into the whole sort of area around the mountain, which is these hectares in the district or municipality of Medio Cudello, let me tell you a little bit more about its geographical and geological importance. So this natural space in Cantabria has been known historically for the extraction of iron since ancient times. And I'm talking of ancient times as in at least the Bronze Age, but certainly the Iron Age and Roman period. The overall landscape that you're going to be seeing on either side of the mountain and in front of us is the work of the clear erosion of a typical karstic landscape. The vast majority of the geological composition around the area is limestone and clay, which have been carved and shaped into what you see nowadays by the action of wind and water, which is why at the top of the hill, like I was mentioning, the wind was quite fierce. And I promise you that when it rains, this is not necessarily a very good hike, even on a car, mind you, because if you're paying attention to the curves, this is steep. And this takes us to one of the other reasons why Peña Cabarga has actually become very important in more recent times. Peña Cabarga is actually very important in cycling. Cantabria overall is a big cycling community because of all of our hills, but Peña Cabarga has been the last climb 5 times in the Vuelta de España, which is, the I guess, most important competition in Europe, alongside with El Giro in Italy and Le Tour de France. So I think, if I remember correctly, the 5 times this has happened was in 79, 2010, 2011, 13, and 16. It's about 5.9 kilometers with a gradient of 9.2 in terms of the actual, descent. I'm sure you can see that as the car is going down. And it's considered a rating 4 in terms of difficulty, 722. If that means anything to you, then great. If not, I promise you, it's very hard. Well, it is precisely through these very, very windy roads that the mines of the area have been in use, we reckon, since the Bronze Age by the local Cantabrian people, but we know that the Romans properly started extracting it because we even have some writing by Pliny the Elder that goes like this. In the maritime area that bathes the ocean, there is a very high mountain that, it seems incredible, is all made of metal. So the Romans knew this was a very important, area for ironworks, and the exploitation of iron in the area of Peña Cabarga was active until 1988, when it finally closed down and it was properly, restored into a more natural atmosphere, as you can see from here. Well, The issue with this area is, or not necessarily issue, but one of the reasons why the impact in the landscape is quite severe is because not far away from where we are, and actually I'm not pointing right now towards that area with the camera, but the valleys that I was pointing towards just a moment ago, and that in the many swings and roundabouts of the road we may get to see again, the internal valleys, the Los Valles Pasiegos and further into Picos de Europa, is one of the areas where we find two locations that are very important for steelworks and ironworks, which are La Cavada and Liérganes. In fact, La Real factory de La Cavada was actually the first proper royal industry of ironworks and steelwork in Spain, and also very heavily and intensively used in military production. So that is the reason why Peña Cabarga has always been so important for Cantabrian people, not just because it's like an icon from the sea, but because as a source of livelihood, if you can see what I mean, it's actually been providing with work for hundreds of years. In fact, the ironworks here were so important that a lot of our ironworks were actually sent over to the area of Santander to then be shipped off on our merchant navy further away from Spain itself. Often a lot of our ironworks actually went to the UK via Cardiff. And well, we're almost at the bottom of Peña Cabarga, so I hope that you've kind of enjoyed the ride and the climb. But like I said, most importantly, I just really wanted to give you guys a different, I guess, view of my region, to show you those beautiful landscapes and a little bit of the cultural importance that, places like this have. So, I hope that my awful dexterity in the car hasn't been too distracting, but at least it's given you a different point of view. And well, here we are now in the exit of Eras already and about to join the motorway. So in that sense, I'll say thank you so much for listening and have a lovely day.